Let me ask you something uncomfortable. When's the last time you had a real conversation with your parents that didn't really turn into a big ball of frustration, silence, or even emotional distance? Now, when I say this, when I talk about a conversation, I'm not talking about like a surface level check in. I'm not talking about small talk. I'm talking about a real conversation where you felt heard, respected, and even understood. If you're being honest, for the majority of you, and I'm not just going to say the majority of you, the majority of us, that answer is either a long time ago, or if we're even more honest, a lot of us have to say never. By the end of this video, though, you're going to understand why your relationship with your parents feels so hard, so tense. You're going to understand why so many Muslim adults silently struggle with resentment and guilt all at the same time, wrapped up in one big ball. But what's more important, you'll find out what you can actually do to rebuild respect and peace without actually feeling like you're betraying who you really are. Now, let me ask you this. Do you feel like no matter how old you become, how old you get, you're still treated like a child? Well, this is something that we almost always go through as Muslims as we're growing up. So pay attention because this video is for you. Now, here's the truth that most people don't really want to hear because we like to blame one another. The truth is that it's not just about your parents being controlling, and it's not about you needing to feel more independent or needing your independence. It's about unspoken expectations. It's about unresolved emotional roles and a lack of clear adult boundaries that Islam actually encourages, but only when it's done correctly. And yes, before you ask me, there is a way to honor your parents while still becoming your own person, breaking out of the cocoon, as they say. Now, here's where I want to talk about why this issue is so serious from those three lenses or angles that we always talk about. Now, in terms of the personal lens, when your relationship with your parents is strained, it begins to bleed into everything. It bleeds into your confidence, your decision making abilities or capabilities. For the youth, pay attention to this one, it even bleeds into your marriage prospects. And it bleeds into your emotional health. You find that you start doubting yourself, even when you know that you're absolutely and totally capable of carrying out those things that you want to do or becoming who you want to be. You hesitate before making normal, everyday adult decisions, not because you don't think you can, but because you're afraid of the backlash, disappointment, or even the emotional pressure. Some of you carry around a constant, heavy guilt, and others carry like a quiet, built up, pent up anger. But the issue is, or the bigger issue is, that many of you carry both of these things. And over time, that internal conflict, it begins to do what? It drains you. And in terms of the community lens, when large numbers of Muslim adults are emotionally stuck in unhealthy parent-child dynamics, believe me when I tell you the entire Ummah feels it. Marriages are either delayed, and sometimes it's even worse because they're rushed. Conflicts spill into spouses as well as into the children. You see what you see nowadays in many of the homes, where men are struggling to lead their households, and women are struggling to feel safe in trying to discuss or assert their needs. We end up with generations that are outwardly practicing Islam, but inwardly, they're more or less emotionally exhausted. And in terms of that future lens, I want you to ask yourself this. What if nothing happens? When I say that, I mean, what if nothing changes? 5 years from now, 10 years down the road, do you want the same arguments? Do you want that same silence that many people feel in their households now? Do you want that same emotional distance between not just spouses, but even between siblings and parents and children? Or even worse, do you want to repeat that same dynamic with your own children when you have them if you are from the children of these households? Of course not. Now, I do want you to pause for a second. This is where I want you to sit down and I want you to really think. Which of these perspectives or which one of these lenses or angles hits you the hardest right now? We talked about all three: the personal, the community, and the future. Now, let's be honest with one another. Many of you feel misunderstood by your parents, but you also are scared of being labeled as being ungrateful. You feel controlled, but you're told that it's just concern. You're trying to assert your independence, but it turns into emotional pressure, guilt, or constant reminders about sacrifices that have been made for you. You hear things like, after all we did for you. You hear things like, we know what's best for you. Or, you're changing. Or, like many of the youth are being told now, you're becoming too Western. And these statements, they don't help. But rather, you slowly stop sharing your real thoughts. You stop opening up. And you live two emotional lives. One at home, and the other one, any and everywhere else. Now, I personally have spoken to brothers who feel like they're strong everywhere except when they're home with their parents. I've heard from sisters who feel like adults everywhere and in every situation except inside of their parents' households. Now, I'm going to share with you one simple example that make things crystal clear. A brother in his, let's say he's in his late 20s, early 30s, yeah, probably late 20s. He realized that when he was at work, he can lead teams, he can manage finances, and he was also acting as a mentor to some of the youth in the community. But the moment he sat in front of his parents, he felt like a little kid again. His voice and his personality shrank. Not because he lacked respect for his parents, but because he never learned how to transition from being an obedient child to a responsible adult son. Now pay attention, because that confusion creates tension on both sides of the table. Now, understanding the root of the problem, here's something that I have to say clearly. Most parents aren't intentionally trying to control you. This is something that you need to come to grips with. They're afraid. They're afraid of losing relevance. They're afraid of losing that connection. And they're afraid that your independence means abandonment. And, it's hard to understand sometimes for some of them that many of you aren't trying to rebel, but rather you're just trying to breathe. You have to explain to them that you're just trying to grow. The problem, as I said before, isn't over here, and it's not just over here. The problem is that no one's taught either side, the parents or the children, how to evolve the relationship. Because one thing that I think is not being expressed to us is that Islam doesn't freeze relationship in childhood. Respect does not equate to silence. Obedience doesn't mean emotional suffocation. And independence doesn't mean disobedience. This is something that needs to be understood. Rewind the video and listen to that part again. Now that we've discussed the issue, this is the part in the video where I'm going to give you some steps that you can follow, that you can work on to help to solve this situation between you and your parents right now, if you really want to. Now, I know there are a lot of people out there that they don't want to. So they're not going to. But what I'm going to do right now is give you the steps that if you want to fix that relationship, I can show you how. So make sure you go get your pencil and paper right now. Write down these steps, and don't just write them down and put them in your notebook and stick the notebook up on the shelf. That's not going to help you or anyone else. What you need to do is you need to write them down, read over them, put them into action, and help your friends that you know are going through the same situation by explaining these things to them. And if you feel as though you can't explain it, just share the video with them at the end of the video, all right? But here's where we're going to get started working on these steps. Make sure if you don't have your pen and paper, pause the video, get it, restart. And meanwhile, with the rest of you, I'm going to start with these steps. What do you say we get started? Here's where we get practical. Now, I want you to listen carefully, because understanding what I'm about to explain to you is where real change begins. Step 1, redefine what respect actually means. It's important. Many Muslims, they conflate or they confuse respect with compliance. Respect isn't doing every single thing that your parents want. Respect is maintaining good character. Respect is employing kind speech. And respect is consideration, even when you disagree. As I said earlier in the video, you can say no without being disrespectful. It is possible for you to choose a path different than that which your parents want without having to cut the ties. It's not about what you say, it's about how you go about doing this. Start by checking your tone, not just your decisions. Ask yourself, am I acting like a frustrated teenager right now? Or am I responding and speaking with my parents like a responsible, calm adult? And step 2, stop explaining yourself emotionally. This one's a little bit more difficult. Many of you overshare in hopes of being understood. But when parents are emotionally triggered, more explanation sounds like more resistance. Please try and understand what I just told you. Instead of long emotional defenses, use short, grounded statements. Now I'm going to give you a couple just to, drop a couple of examples on you. So pay attention to these and try to employ them in your speech. Say things like, I appreciate your concern. Use statements like, I really have thought this through. Or, I'm taking responsibility for this decision. Calm repetition builds trust over time. It's not something that's going to happen all at once, but it will happen. And step 3, build independence before announcing it. What do I mean? Don't declare independence before demonstrating it. Parents trust actions more than words. They're people. Everyone does. Start paying your bills. Start managing your responsibilities. Show them that you know how to be consistent. When they see stability from you, you're going to see naturally that grip is going to loosen because they know that you can take care of yourself. You have to show them before you can tell them. And step 4, choose the right battles. You have to understand that not every disagreement needs a full confrontation. It doesn't have to turn into a full battle. You have to ask yourself, is this issue about control or preference? Is it about values or comfort? You have to begin to save your energy for matters that shape your future. You don't need to jump into every battle you see. And step 5, make dua and do not neglect spiritual grounding. This isn't just emotional work. It's also spiritual work. Ask Allah for wisdom in your speech or when you speak to your parents. Ask Allah to soften everyone's heart because everyone's heart is under Allah's control. And ask Allah to heal what you can't fix by yourself. Allah's in control of all of it. Change doesn't always come through arguments. Sometimes it actually comes through consistency and patience. Now, let me pause here and ask you a question. Which of these steps actually scares you the most? It's important. Actually, don't just listen to me. Think about that. Because that answer reveals where you really need to work the hardest at. So really focus on the question and the answer. Many of you carry a deep fear. If I asserted myself, am I a bad son? Or if I speak up, am I being a bad daughter? That fear, it keeps you emotionally trapped. But I need you to understand that Islam doesn't require you to erase yourself in order to be a righteous or religious person. You're allowed to mature. In Islam, you're allowed to grow. As a matter of fact, that it's something that is praiseworthy. You're allowed to lead your own life responsibly. Being dutiful to your parents doesn't mean being voiceless. This is another thing that you need to understand. You need to not only understand it, but be able to express this to your parents. Now, this part is important. Despite your best efforts, parents don't, and you really shouldn't expect that they're going to change quickly. Some of them don't change at all. You have to understand that your responsibility is not to control their reaction. Your responsibility is simply to maintain character, to maintain boundaries, and to be consistent. You have to understand that peace isn't always something that leads to agreement. Sometimes peace is emotional clarity. Now, I want to ask you something, and I know it may be personal, but it's important that even if you don't give us the answer, which you should, and I'll tell you why, you need to think about this question. I want to ask, what's the hardest thing that you wish you could say to your parents, but you've never been able to bring yourself to say it out loud? If it's not too personal, write it in the comment section below. I need you to understand that you're not alone, and there are a lot of other people out here. They need to see your answers because they need to know that they're not alone either. Now, if this video spoke to you, don't just let it end here. Make sure you like the video so that it reaches others who are struggling with the same issue. Comment honestly so that we can build real conversations around this topic. And share it with someone who needs this message. There's no way in the world you can tell me that you don't know someone who needs to hear what's being said. Now, I also want you to make sure that you're subscribed to the channel and you hit the notification button so you don't miss any further videos. If you're serious about growth, if you're serious about healing, and you're serious about becoming a grounded Muslim adult, as I always tell you, join the Next Level Muslim community on Patreon. This is where we go deeper, we have real discussions, and we support one another through this exact struggle and others like it. Don't forget, the link is in the description below. I do want to leave you with one thought. And this is that you don't have to figure this out alone. All you do have to do is understand that your responsibility at this point is to take the first step.